What is going on, guys? Happy Wednesday. It's a beautiful day here. I'm in Connecticut. I don't know if anyone else on the Northeast coast, but I am loving the springtime weather. If you're somewhere kind of down south and it's a lot nicer all year round, I'm very jealous of you, but we won't kind of talk about that. Let's dive into the topic for tonight. We are talking about our fourth and final video on the thoracic spine. Right, we're going to break down the three most effective strengthening exercises for your thoracic spine in detail. Okay, if you guys have not seen the previous three videos, go back and watch them, especially the last video we did last week. We covered the three most effective stretches you should be doing for your thoracic spine to improve your overall mobility. And guys, remember, mobility is a precursor to strength. So if you do the exercises that I show you tonight before you do the ones from last week, it's kind of backwards. Things aren't going to really work out that well for you, and you're not going to get as much benefit out of it. So make sure you go back, watch that video first, then boom, move to this one. All right, hopefully that makes sense. And guys, we are not really doing too much talking tonight. It's going to be a little bit of a different type of video. I'm really just going to kind of share my screen, show you these three exercises in detail. And those three exercises are going to be the most effective for you to kind of maintain your mobility from the exercise that you did last week, okay? And that's for thoracic extension mobility and thoracic rotation mobility. Those three exercises that are going to help us target those motions and keep the mobility, even improve it further through strengthening, getting our kind of mind and kind of muscle kind of connection a little bit stronger, is number one, kettlebell windmills. We're going to show you and break down that in detail. Number two is tall kneeling Paloff press or rotations. It can be called either or. Number three is half kneeling banded thoracic rotations. So a bit of a mouthful there. Those are the three hard and challenging, but awesome, very effective exercises that we're going to go through here in detail. All right. So if you guys know someone who can benefit from opening up their mid back through mobility and then strengthening it, please feel free to share this with them. That would really help kind of us to grow and really help them to kind of get a good perspective of how to do things properly. And you guys, as always, if you have questions, link them down below in the comments if you're on YouTube or Facebook. And if you're interested and you like what I have to say, we do offer 10 to 15-minute free discovery calls where we just answer your questions, give you free resources if we think you're a good fit for something. And if you guys want to kind of book that, then kind of keep an eye on below down in the comments for Facebook, and then look at the description here down below for YouTube. All right, thanks so much, guys. So let me share my screen and we will dive into those three exercises in detail. And we're going to start with the kettlebell windmills first, because those are the ones that I find people have the most issues with, and really that they have the most difficulty kind of doing and just kind of executing on properly, so to speak. All right, so you guys should be able to see my screen. All right, let me get rid of some things here. All right, so again, we're going to kind of break this down. We're going to go through a couple of these. We probably won't go through all 8 videos, but this is an awesome app. I've showed it to you guys many times if you've been following me for a while. It's called Muscle in Motion. So this is going to break down how to do the kettlebell windmill properly, right? And you're going to hinge at your hips, and you're going to reach one arm down, trying to touch the ground with the opposite arm. So again, you're reaching down. That kettlebell needs to stay in line with your shoulder as you're going through and you're doing the actual exercise. Okay, I cannot stress how important that is. You need to make sure that kettlebell stays right over your body as you go through and do it. Right, so he's reaching down, kettlebell's right over the shoulder joint, and his head and his eyes are following the kettlebell as he goes through that exercise. Okay, so that is why it's so important, such a good exercise to improve your thoracic extension, because your spine's staying in extension as you're doing it. This is showing you the muscles you're going to be working, right? It's your glute max that's helping kind of extend your hip backwards and externally rotate your hip or lateral rotation. Your hamstrings are assisting with the same two motions, right? Pulling your hips back into that hinge and then letting it externally rotate or turn outwards. So awesome kind of movement, not just for the thoracic spine, but we're also targeting the glute medius as well, which is a very commonly weak muscle in people with hip and knee or ankle issues. So that's super important. This is a great overall exercise for all those things. You hit the piriformis a little bit too, guys, which is that small little muscle connecting from the kind of sacrum there to the kind of femoral neck. All right, so that is that. And then this just kind of breaks down. I use the adductors on the other side, and it shows you what position your pelvis should go into. So the back stays flat. You're kind of tucking your pelvis back here, and then kind of this side is rotating out. So again, overall awesome exercise. We shouldn't focus more on this because we're talking about upper body here. This improves both shoulder mobility and stability. So you can see the rotator cuff in blue here or purple, right? That's kind of lit up. That's your infraspinatus muscle, supraspinatus at the top, and then your scapular stabilizers is all in green here. So you have your lower traps working hard, your upper traps, right? You have your serratus anterior. So all three of those muscles are really important to maintain and grow and improve your strength of this area of your mid back. Okay. So hopefully that kind of was a good breakdown and that made sense to you guys as you kind of saw him do the kettlebell windmills, right? Where he kind of reaches down, head follows the kettlebell, stays over the body, and then he kind of just pivots at the hips. Super, super important. Okay, so that's exercise number one. How many sets and reps should you do? Great question, right? People always ask me that. I would say try and do 2 to 3 sets of about 5 to 6 repetitions, right? Typically, you want to load this pretty heavy. Make sure you don't have any shoulder issues while you're doing this. It's maybe a little too advanced if you are dealing with a shoulder issue. It might be too soon to be doing this. So make sure obviously you clear with your medical healthcare professional first. But I would say use a somewhat significantly heavy weight and then 5 to 6 reps for 1 to 2 sets or 2 to 3 sets, right? Up to you. And do slow and controlled motions, pivot at your hips. Make sure you're not twisting your spine too much because then you're going to feel in your lower back, which we don't want. All right, so that's the first exercise. We're going to jump to the next one, which is half kneeling banded thoracic rotations. So you got me here in my basement, just kind of doing the actual exercise. All you need is a nice kind of thin, small kind of resistance band to use. And you're going to start with your outer knee up in front of you and your inner knee kind of up almost close to the wall. You don't want to actually touching the wall. It should be a couple inches off. And you want your right arm, which is your arm opposite of the knee that's in front, against the wall as you're holding the band with a clenched fist. The opposite arm is going to reach across your body and your head's going to follow your elbow. Your goal is to kind of reach that back shoulder and this back arm here against the wall without moving too much in that kind of frontal plane. So you don't want to kind of shift your body weight side to side as you do it. I'll try and make this bigger so you guys can see it. We want to actually try and kind of just purely twist and rotate. We don't want to rotate and then shift our body weight back like this. If you do that, you're cheating and you get nothing out of it. And the other big thing that people do incorrectly is they tend to move this knee too much. Like my knee moves a little bit, but you want to keep it as stable as possible. So you want to actually shove that knee inwards a little bit to make sure it doesn't pop outwards. Okay. And for this one, you want to do 2 to 3 sets of about 10 to 12 repetitions. Hold dynamically at the end for about 3 seconds for a static type of stretch. That's going to benefit you the most where you open up that thoracic spine. And we're doing it now with a little bit of a band, which makes it a little bit harder than doing mobility work like we talked about last week. All right, so that'll be an awesome one to improve thoracic kind of rotation. All right, and the first one to improve both thoracic extension and rotation. Okay, so those are the first two. The third one could be called tall kneeling Paloff press or tall kneeling Paloff rotations. They get thrown around kind of in the literature. It doesn't matter, both the same exercise. This is tall kneeling, meaning you got to use most of your hip and your core muscles to engage, and you're kind of just maintaining and stabilizing this position. This is going to really work the obliques, the serratus anterior, like that muscle around the rib cage. So this is going to really help promote more thoracic extension and improve our rotation as well, because this is an anti-rotation exercise. So that band is going to want to pull you towards where the kind of anchor is, but you have to use your muscles to fight and resist that. So this actually really helps with your mobility, which you'd be surprised by doing it. And people have done this at some point typically. You can do it in standing. That's the easiest, right? You can do it in tall kneeling where you're on 2 knees. You can do it in half kneeling like the last one we just showed you, around 1 knee. All are great ways to kind of challenge yourself a little bit more. So he's going to show you, he's going to pull the band, right? Use 2 arms, nice kind of somewhat of a thinner band. Make sure your hips are stacked in line with your knees and your shoulders. You're going to pull your arms out so they're perfectly straight at chest height. And he's not really holding here, but what I would recommend is I would hold for a good 5 seconds or more, 5 to 10, I'd say on average. And you want to do about 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps on this one, right? So you want to make sure those hands are a little bit under shoulder height. His head's in perfect neutral alignment. He's not kind of pushed too far forward. He's kind of just relaxed there. We'll make it bigger for you. And we'll kind of just show you here. Give myself a break from talking here. So again, pulling out, abs engaged and glutes are squeezed, right? If your abs and glutes aren't engaged, you're going to probably overarch your lower back, or you're going to rotate and twist your trunk too much. Okay. So this is probably the simplest of the 3 exercises we reviewed, but definitely one of the most important too. He's going to build up that strength. And you can see all the bands on the wall here. All these are all the super bands. So again, I would never use a green band. It's way too thick, too much resistance. Usually I would stay with like a red, a yellow, or a purple or black band, because those tend to be a little bit on the lighter side for resistance while you're doing it. Right. And if this is too hard, guys, or you have a knee issue, do it in standing. Standing is the same thing. It's just going to be a little more easy to kind of do it. If you have back pain or you can't tolerate it, do it in sitting. You can sit on a chair and do it that way. And I've done that with a lot of people. There's so many ways you can modify these exercises based on your symptoms. And that's where a physical therapist comes into play in helping you get to your goals and build up your strengths. So you can tolerate more and do more in the gym. Okay. So that is everything I have for you guys for tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed those 3 exercises in detail, right? Just to recap, we talked about 3 in total. Number 1 is kettlebell windmills, and we broke down the exercise form for you and the muscles you're using. Number 2, and we talked about half kneeling banded thoracic rotations. And number 3, we talked about tall kneeling Paloff press, okay, or rotation, so to speak. So make sure you guys kind of rewatch this if you forget the form or you want to know kind of more about kind of what's going on exactly. If you guys have questions on the form or you want access to these videos, comment down below if you're on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll get those to you. Again, if you like this video and you want some help with your thoracic mobility, which in turn is going to help your shoulder repair and recover, right, which is the missing piece, we do have a new kind of guide we just made for our clients that we're happy to share with you guys for free. So if you want that, comment shoulder down below, and we're going to give you kind of these exercises with tutorials on them in the actual guide. All right. So again, comment shoulder down below if you guys want that. And if you like it so much you want to hop on a discovery call with us, you can also kind of click that link down below in the description on YouTube or in the comments on Facebook. All right. Thank you guys so much for liking and subscribing to our channel if you're on YouTube. We really appreciate all the kind of care that you guys have showed us over the past year or so, and that our YouTube channel continues to grow, as well as our Facebook group and Instagram. So thank you guys so much. It is not easy to do all those things. So we appreciate your feedback, and we appreciate you guys kind of continuing to support us. All right. Thank you so much. And for next week, we will be diving into the shoulder joint for the month of June. So get excited for that one. I probably see more shoulders than any other joint in the body, just because I work with a lot of CrossFitters and weightlifters, and that's a very common injury site, the shoulder and the hip, because there's so much range of motion that goes on there. And it's a very complex joint, right? It's actually 4 joints, not just one. So we will talk about that more in detail. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Have a great rest of your week.